Alright, in this video I will go over the Twitter trade. It is Friday, the 29th of August. I went over the Twitter last week in my tactical setups. So I figured this triggered again, and that's why I'll go over it. So without further ado here, I'm going to go over just real quick. This is a daily chart here of my the premise of this trade. So this was actually just over a week ago. This is Thursday of last week. This bar right there. Let me just bring it in just a little bit more so you can see a little better. So again, nice consolidation, gapped up. Basically spent about a month sort of digesting this gap, consolidating real nice here. Got some volatility setups. Had been relatively weak, but had some false starts in here along the way. I think it's frustrated a lot of people, me included. But I figured at some point it will go, and especially after all this frustration, it's one of those things that some people probably gave up on it after all this nonsense, at least sort of trading it or watching it on a shorter term time frame. I had a small position on going into this. Again, having a small position helps because it gives you a little bit of skin in the game, so you focus a little bit more on it. And also, again, it was one of those things where I was leaning on this level here, 42 and a half for that longer term position, but definitely wanted to buy a bit more on this if we were to break out above these 45 and a half level, which is right here. So again, above the moving averages, which is good, and figured, hey, let's take a shot at it. So on Friday it finally did pop through quite nicely. Traded broke the halves, traded up to 46. Not a bad move. Volume did come in. Actually, it broke above the moving average just slightly, which is nice. Got some relative strength in there. And then basically going into Monday, I was focused on, okay, could this put a day two together? Get another follow through day. I mean, there's a bunch of different scenarios. One was a nice follow-through day. Another would just be sort of consolidating Friday's move, and the other would be come right back down below this 45 and a half, and this would be a false breakout. So those are the potential options, with obviously different variations that could have happened. So instead of the follow-through day, we did trade above it, but it kind of just took it out, and then tested, broke below actually went negative at some point, but by the end of the day, it actually closed positive. So let's take a look at the intraday in this stock here. So this is the intraday chart. So what we have here is the buy level 45 and a half. Never really, kind of in an initial breakout, it kind of tested the level by a couple of ticks, right? It went down to 45, 46, but then went back, and that was the end of that test. Again, on the intraday, volume was not as not as strong as it could have been, but still, that being said, on Monday they actually opened on the above the high here. I guess there were a lot of people anticipating, short-term traders anticipating that day two, and because of that, that's exactly why I didn't get the day two, right? The market's here to frustrate as many, especially the majority. That's what the market is good at doing, and sure enough, they did frustrate because they went from green to red, which probably brought in a bunch of people shorting this, at least short-term players. Kind of chopped around in here, but then recovered kind of nicely by the end of the day. But again, nothing crazy here. There's the end of the day right here. So as you can see, it was definitely a pretty frustrating intraday trade. They took them down. They actually took out the high of the day. Then everyone, hey, here we go. This is the start of that big day two. You're taking out the high, and what do? They crap back out, and not only do they not follow through, but they actually took out the low of the day. So anyone who was getting long here was getting out on the lows here, and I was managing the position from this day, so I did not add on this. I didn't chase this. I saw it gap up, and then it kind of did this. Now the level that I was on this initial position that I was keying off, I did not want to see that trade below Friday afternoon's low of 45.70. So I had to stop in here 45.69 on this. I'm able to type in a manual stop in there and just to override any of the other stuff. And you could tell here that this low is 45.73, and it went all the way to 45.70 to the tick. So how I for some reason got real lucky and it was not stopped out because I was one tick lower on the stop out. But so by some miracle, I'm still long the stock going into Tuesday. At this point, yeah, it was like, all right, well, now that it frustrated everybody, but it still closed positive. Is it possible to finally make a run? And sure enough, it did. It made a really nice run here. I had a Fibonacci 2.618 target. It actually was 47.24. This thing is programmed to initiate a much tighter stop, sort of the day low. After 9:45, it'll stop out half of the position, which it didn't do because it actually closed on the highs. But this day was kind of scary because it kind of opened, took out the high, and then crapped out real quick here. In this algorithm, like I said, it does not activate that Fibonacci safety exit until after 9:45 in the morning, and this all happened prior to that 9:45. So I kind of, it was a little frustrating to watch that happen. Especially since it was up at 45.5 and it was down over a point by just prior to 9:45. But fortunately, it stabilized there and then actually bounced up quite nicely and actually recovered quite nicely again, sort of reminiscent of this day here, right? Although not as nasty. I guess that morning was quite nasty, though, to be honest. And then and it closed just slightly negative, but again recovered most of that initial gap down. So then the next day again it just was back off to the races, which is great to see. Volume really came in that day, as you can see down here, and just closed just slightly off the highs. And then this morning they actually broke above the 50. Again, keep in mind that once we broke that 47.24, this algorithm is going to be selling the low of the day after 9:45. It'll enter in that stop order. So in this case here, so now we're 9:57 at this point. The low is 49.5. And that's where the stop was going to kick in, just under that. 49, just under 49.5 for half of that position. But and then we actually went another leg lower, but then again recovered quite nicely. Not actually slightly positive. So Twitter looks great. Still hold half of this, and even the intraday moving averages are doing all the right things. So we'll see what happens from here. This is the daily chart. So as you can tell, that is somewhat of a potentially bearish little pattern there. Daily, because it did close lower than the open. and it's a little bit of a reversal pattern there. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday when the market reopens, if they try to push that below these 49s and retrace. I figure the first level of support should really be around these 48. The high, I'd say this high of 48. So and again, this is where it kind of stalled the first time here, just around that 48 level. So I figure that would be the first level support if we break the 49s, right? So ultra short-term support 49, next layer of support will be 48. That would be the level that I'd really like to see hold, because that's your breakout level from the earnings gap. So again, I like this longer term because it's broke some real big downtrends. Had a good fundamental catalyst going on here. Finally, such a change of composure, if you will, and now we're gonna hopefully see some relative strength in this name, like we did last year. But again, we'll monitor it. Things can change real quick in this market. The market's had a great run, so there might be a little bit of testing to the downside at some point here, especially when the volume kicks up starting next week. They might try to retrace some of this move, and the key is to see how Twitter will hold up into any type of weakness. We definitely want to see it continue to hold its relative strength here. So I think that the next level that it could go to is, again, these 55s roughly, which was a level that it couldn't get above, or it had trouble here after it had this earnings gap down in February. Kind of traded just into the upper 50s actually, but if I remember, the level it broke down from was around 55 here. So when it kind of stabilized, and then it started to break these levels. The first level it broke was around 55, 54 and a half, and then it just kept making these lower lows. So I figure that should be the next level of resistance here, if it could definitely hold its relative strength. Again, that's all I got for Twitter. Thanks for watching.